must be at the head of the list of countries which express the most solidarity in the world, and their people, showing solidarity, have reached all corners of the world, showing the best of their skills and showing them with humanity. For decades, Palestine has suffered from a protracted conflict which has shaken regional stability, and they have asked for their dream of lasting peace. The occupation, forced expulsions and genocide have led the people of Palestine to face devastation and destruction, creating an open prison where thousands of people live, including mostly women and children. Peace and security in Palestine will not be achieved without a genuine commitment to human rights and an end to the genocide. Bolivia reiterates its full support to the exercise of self-determination and independence in Palestine within the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital.
Y esperamos que a la brevedad se...
We hope that soon they will be a fully fledged member country of the Assembly of the United Nations. Brothers and sisters of the world, before this assembly...
Innocent civilians in Gaza are also going through hell. Thousands and thousands kills, including aid workers. Too many families dislocated, crowding into tents, facing a dire humanitarian situation. They did not ask for this war that Hamas started. I put forward with Qatar and Egypt a ceasefire and hostage deal. It's been endorsed by the UN Security Council. Now is the time for the parties to finalize its terms, bring the hostages home, and secure security for Israel and Gaza free of Hamas' grip, ease the suffering in Gaza, and end this war. On October 7th, since October 7th, we've also been determined to prevent a wider war that engulfs the entire region. Hezbollah, unprovoked, joined the October 7th attack, launching rockets into Israel. Almost a year later, too many on each side of the Israeli-Lebanon border remain displaced. A full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even if the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible. In fact, it remains the only path to lasting security to allow the residents from both countries to return to their homes and the border safely. And that's what we're working tirelessly to achieve.
The humanitarian disaster and the growing number of civilians victims in Gaza. It is imperative to unconditionally cease hostilities, guarantee the entry of humanitarian aid, and respect for international humanitarian law. It is also imperative to resume negotiations with a view to implementing the two-state solution, the only one that can bring peace and stability to the region. Portugal is against the expansion of settlements, the confiscation of land in the occupied Palestinian territories, and the actions of settlers that constitute violation of international law and obstacles to peace. It is our common interest for everyone and shared responsibility to ensure strict respect for international law and humanitarian law.
We support the efforts by the International Criminal Court to investigate according to its mandate. The two-state solution, which enjoys an overwhelming support among all of us in this hall, was decided by this very assembly many decades ago. There is no other conflict where the United Nations has a clearer and longer-lasting responsibility. The end of the war in Gaza will only be one step in the long and difficult path to a two-state solution that allows Israel and Palestine to live together in peace and security, in line with the right of self-determination of all peoples. Knowing that this will take time, it is even more important that all actors stop escalating the conflict further and that the human suffering ends today. The UN and each single member state need to live up to the goal we have set ourselves many years ago and bring this conflict to an end.
Nearly 43,000 people have been killed and that their perpetrators have not been held accountable by the international community. The international community cannot be indifferent to this situation that threatens the existence of the Palestinian people, who have the same right to live in peace and security in the territory of their ancestors.
The war that Israel is waging in Gaza has gone on too long. The tens of thousands of civilian victims in Palestine cannot be justified. There is no explanation possible for this. There are too many innocent people who have died, and we mourn them too. And those people who have died are an outrage for humanity and a dangerous source of hatred, resentment, which threatens and will threaten everyone's security, including that of Israel tomorrow. So this war needs to stop, and a ceasefire needs to happen as soon as possible, at the same time as the hostages are released. And humanitarian assistance needs to arrive en masse in Gaza.
In any case, the evidence is resoundingly clear. We cannot go back to the situation which previously prevailed. It is imperative and urgent to apply a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine to coexist side by side in peace and security. That is the only possible solution to a conflict which has already dragged on for decades and which has claimed so many innocent lives. Moreover, the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, requested, moreover, by this General Assembly of the United Nations, has ruled that the occupation of Palestinian territories is illegal. What we're seeing is an occupation which must immediately stop. The time has come to work on the stabilization phase. That is the sole responsibility of the Palestinian Authority. Spain is committed to the PA and determined to increase that support. Ladies and gentlemen, as you will be well aware, Spain took the decision to recognise the State of Palestine on the 28th of May. That was a decision supported by the overwhelming majority of Spanish society, and one whose only aim is to further the quest for peace in the region, a desire which has long been held.
I now turn to Palestine. In light of the realities endured on a day-to-day basis, there is no doubt that we are not seeing legitimate defense. This war has been punctuated by disproportionate use of force, largely targeting innocent people. This is the purest form of genocide perpetrated by the Israeli forces in Gaza, which we condemn, and there's an urgent need to bring this to an end. The horrors endured by the people in Palestine have been reflected in our daily reality as we see the deaths of more than 40,000 people, including women and innocent children, more than 100,000 injured people, forced displacements of thousands of people under inhumane conditions, as well as the systematic destruction of hospitals and residential buildings. Our country reaffirms our full solidarity and our steadfast support to the fraternal people of Palestine. We beseech the international community to act for an immediate cessation of hostilities and for a rapid resumption of the delivery of humanitarian assistance. Furthermore, we call for a fair and lasting solution rooted in international law and the relevant resolutions of the United Nations. We specifically call upon the international community to work quickly to arrive at the two-state solution, that of two states, a sovereign Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital, living side by side in full security with Israel. We applaud the admission of the State of Palestine as a full-fledged member of the United Nations, as well as its participation in the work of the United Nations, beginning with this session. I also wish to recall that the situation in the West Bank is also of great concern, and as has been stressed by Cardinal Pizzaballa, Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, what is transpiring is a palpable and concrete example of how hatred, resentment, contempt have unleashed forms of violence that are increasingly extreme and increasingly difficult to contain. The situation in the Sudan is also a focus of our attention. We call upon the two parties to the conflict to exercise restraint, to shield their populations from the horrors of this war, which for fraternal peoples has lasted for far too long.
The world has witnessed the true nature of the Israeli regime. It has witnessed how the regime carries out atrocities in Gaza, and in 11 months has murdered in cold blood over 41,000 innocent people, mostly women and children. Its leaders label this genocide, the killing of children, war crimes and state terrorism as legitimate self-defense. They label hospitals, kindergartens and schools as legitimate military targets. They label the freedom-loving and brave people around the world who protest against their genocide as anti-Semitic. They label and oppress people who have stood up against 7 decades of occupation and humiliation as terrorists.
When Gaza dies, humanity will die, the whole of humanity. The people of God was not the people of Israel, it would seem. It is not the people of the USA. Rather, the people of God is humankind as one. The children of Gaza, they were humankind, the chosen people of God. They are killing God's chosen people, the children of our very humankind. There is one reason for this contemporary Armageddon. In the senselessness of governments that applaud genocides, governments that don't act to change economies and decarbonize them. There is a logic behind all of this. It's not politics or this atrium where all presidents speak. That logic, that rationale lies outside, and it's called social inequality. Oxfam says that the richest 1% of humankind has more wealth than 95% of all humankind combined. It is in that level of inequality where the best of our history lies. That is where the logic of mass destruction lies. Destruction that's been unleashed by climate change, the logic of bombs. Netanyahu, as a criminal, is letting those bombs raise down on Gaza. Netanyahu is a hero for the richest 1% of humankind because he's able to demonstrate that people can destroy themselves with bombs.
Peace and security, there is an urgent need for this assembly to support the modalities to actualize the adversary opinion rendered by International Court of Justice regarding the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Prolonged occupation does not justify or make acceptance the hardship and injustice endured. This is particularly true for the people of Gaza, who continue to be brutally massacred. As a country that has endured genocide, Namibia believes that Israel, by intent and by action, is committing genocide. Namibia continues to call for a ceasefire and humanitarian assistance to flow unhindered into Gaza.
The Palestinian cause is resistant to marginalization because it is an issue of indigenous people on their own land, a people who are subjected to a settler colonial occupation. This occupation has taken the form of an apartheid system in the 21st century. Can this be overlooked? The Palestinian cause will remain in place, except in 2 cases, either the end of the occupation or the disappearance of the Palestinian people. It seems there are those in Israel who entertain wishful thinking to eliminate the Palestinian people. The ongoing Israeli aggression for nearly a year is nothing but a result of the absence of a sincere political will, a deliberate international failure to resolve the Palestinian issue with a just solution, and insistence of the occupying Israeli authorities to impose a fait accompli on the Palestinians and the world with all types of force. The ongoing brutal war has fired the coup de grace at international legitimacy and inflicted serious damage on the credibility of the post-World War II concepts on which the international community was founded.
The violence the Palestinian people are being subjected to is a grim continuation of more than half a century of apartheid that has been perpetrated against Palestinians by Israel. We South Africans know what apartheid looks like. We lived through apartheid. We suffered and died under apartheid. We will not remain silent and watch as apartheid is perpetrated against others.
We denounce the illegal occupation of Palestinian territory and the de facto denial of the existence of an independent Palestinian state by the occupying country. From Chile, we call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza that would bring an end to the suffering and the massacre of the Palestinian population, which has already claimed more than 40,000 lives. And imagine just the number of wounded.
The collective punishment of an entire population, including the indiscriminate slaughter of civilians, most of whom are women and children, has long gone beyond the realm of self-defense. As the world watches on helplessly, Israel continues to flout its international obligations, including the orders of the ICJ and successive Security Council resolutions. Instead, the right of self-defense is being used as a weapon of mass extermination, stoking legitimate fears of genocide. No state, large or small, should feel comfortable and safe when such atrocities are allowed to continue with impunity. The war in Gaza must end now. We reiterate our demand for an immediate ceasefire and the release of all hostages and Palestinians illegally detained. Madam President, for more than 75 years, the Palestinian people have been denied their right of self-determination. We must advance the two-state solution, as this remains the only viable option for a future where Palestinians and Israelis.
Don't you think that those people living in Gaza and Palestine, they are human beings? Don't you think that those children in Palestine has the right to play on the streets and go to the schools? And I am addressing the international media. You have seen that Israeli forces indeed killed your journalists, your colleagues, and I am addressing the United Nations Security Council. Don't you think that it is high time that we set stop to this barbarism and this genocide? What are you waiting for? So together with the Palestinian people, the Israeli government is indeed jeopardizing the life of its own citizens. So in order to stop this network of gangsters, what are you waiting for? I'm addressing those who are unconditionally supporting Israel. How long do you think you will be carrying this shame on your shoulders by backing up and supporting Israel? Dear friends, in Ramallah, in Lebanon, in Gaza, children are dying and babies are losing their lives in their incubators. But unfortunately, the international community failed this exam. What happens in Palestine is the symbol of a great moral collapse.
We will not leave. We will not leave. We will not leave. Palestine is our homeland. It is the land of our fathers, our grandfathers. It will remain ours. And if anyone were to leave, it would be the occupying usurpers.